Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, it's Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 147 of Gridiron Grinder. And for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium, like we always do. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week. After that, we're going to jump in and we are going to evaluate the new head coaches in the league. There's five of them this year. Two of them are retreads out of the five. And then last but not least, we'll close things off with our question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight there, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's good, man. It's good. Just jamming away. And yeah, we kind of got to the show like mostly on time this week, which is pretty good. Seems like there's always some kind of a snag or whatever got us delayed. But yeah, I'm good to go, man. Why don't you take that ball and run with it for Name That Stadium, homie?
All right. So as you can see, I like to travel around to stadiums that host NFL games. If you are the first person to guess it right, we'll give you an extra special shout out. Probably give you a bookmark to it so you can just play it over and over again. Last week we had or last time was it last week or did we skip? I'm so confused.
Yeah, I
We
think we did
missed
we
something.
did it early last week, right? We did it
Yeah,
last Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. So, but we had no takers. I
No.
did see like within like a couple days, like we had like 50 views or something. Within like day two, it was at like 47 views, which was quality. So, keep
For
watching.
us, yes.
Keep keep watching, play the game. We'll give you that extra special shout out. But I was in Philadelphia last week. I came damn near picked Philadelphia to be an undefeated Super Bowl champion this coming season. So kind of that's why I picked Philadelphia. Yeah, I know people are gonna say, well, you're counting the Chiefs out, but yeah, bite me. It's my predictions.
I got you. Hey, it's all good. And you ended up riding the wave with the Lions, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. I pulled an upset, two upsets in the second round of the playoffs. So
I like it. I like it. All right, well, yeah, hey, hopefully we get some takers and we can have a little bit of action for next week. But either way, we're going to keep the show rolling. So let's go on here and do our recap of the past week. James, there was running back drama aplenty this
hmm
past week. Okay, and so we'll start with Dalvin Cook was released by the Vikings. Um, they tried to trade him, but it looks like his contract was just a little too hefty to get a trade partner. So they elected to just release him and go with the cheaper, albeit maybe less electric option in Alexander Madison. But I'm interested to see how he does because he's been productive when he's been given the chances. And so I don't think they're going to be in bad shape at running back. But hopefully they got somebody behind Madison just because it's a tough position to play and you got to have some depth. And everything I'm
yeah,
hearing is that, oh, yeah, go ahead, man.
yeah, and with cutting Cook, it saved them 9 million against the cap, which I mean they I didn't think they were that desperate to save money against the cap, but I guess they were. Um,
Well, yeah, I think they're trying to free space to do the deal with Jefferson, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're going to have to pony up for him. So, and whatever. I mean, you look at what's going on with the running backs and contracts and things like that, which is going to lead on to the next handful of things I've got for the news. But
Yeah, but it
I,
wouldn't Jefferson contract. It wouldn't affect this year. Like even if they gave him an extension, it wouldn't really hit much this year. It it really be next year. So who cares about 9 million this year?
well, so isn't there something in the rules now where if you have unused cap space, you can roll over a certain amount into the next year?
Um,
So, I mean, I'm sure there's some reason for it. But or they just thought Cook's on decline and making a ton of money, and they'd rather go to Madison. You know, so in either case, it sounds like Cook's going to have a pretty strong market, and he's already made comments about wanting to take his time and figure out what the team's going to be. But I've heard like, Miami's interested, Denver's interested, a handful of teams are interested, and so
Would Denver would be a terrible landing spot for Dalvin Cook? Like, seriously, they have what's his
Javonte
face?
Williams.
Javonte Williams, who's an every down back. Where are they going to fit Cook in? That's
So, yeah, and what I'm hearing about Denver is that they like him because Javonte Williams isn't a lock to start in week one. And so, if that's the case, maybe you have a guy like Cook, and then even when Williams is ready, you ease him into action. You don't give him a full workload right away. And so they could be kind of like a good tandem for, a little while going into the year, and then maybe you phase out Cook or whatever. But, it's just, hey, teams want to have that cupboard stocked. And Cook will find a home. I heard even Buffalo pairing him up with his brother, man. Like that'd be
only
interesting.
the
But
only way he'd go to Buffalo is if he were to take a cheap ass contract, which he won't do.
for
Because
sure, for sure.
Buffalo views the running back position as like, who cares who we have at running back, because we're not
Yeah.
really gonna use them that much.
Yeah, if he went there, it's I'll take the discount to try and get the Super Bowl, you know.
Hmm.
And maybe it's I'll take the discount and I'll take a part-time role for a year where that part-time production looks so good that I'll get a solid contract next time around. But yeah, I don't know. Either way, he's out. Um, the next one I got running back wise, Austin Eckler, and some of this is like a little bit puff piece kind of stuff, but he's in the news complaining about the value of the running back position, making comments about how it's tough to accept the franchise tag. And, like for him, I think they revised his contract. They gave him some incentive. And, either way, he's saying, he thinks that his his pay for his level of production is not commensurate in so many words. And, this is it's a tough one because I like Eckler, but it does bother me to some degree because, James, it's not like this happened with the running back position just this year. This is a change
Hmm.
that's been going on for a long time now. The league has been moving towards more of a pass friendly game, and the running back position has been devalued for a long time. Some of it even because years ago, so many people wanted to be running backs that they flooded that position group, and so much talent came out of it that it diluted the pool. And so that's why you see a lot of these mid and late round guys having success at the position, because it just you get a lot of guys that want to do it and a lot of
Hmm.
guys that are good at it. And so it's just but to me it's like with Eckler, it's like, look, man, you know the name of the game. You know what's going on in the NFL. Like, you want to complain about it, fine. But to me, it just rubs me the wrong way because whether it's the franchise tag or the devaluing of the position, it's like, come on, dude. You knew all this before you even got there. And him, of all people, he was somebody that, late round pick or whatever it was. He wasn't undrafted, right? He was a later round pick. I'm trying to
Yeah, he
remember.
was a
But either way, nobody expected him to even be a starter, and he ended up working his ass off, and he got there, and he's making solid money, and it's just like, come on, dude, like it just him complaining just bothered me, you know?
yeah. I'm gonna look up. I think he was. I think you're right. He was a late round pick, but
Yeah, he was a great success story, and it just to me, it's like him complaining now about his contract situation. It like tarnishes some of that story to me, you know? But
actually he was undrafted.
he was undrafted. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I thought it was late round,
makes
but
makes his success story even better. I just hate to see it get tainted now because he's complaining about the money and the franchise tag and this and that. Complaining about the franchise tag. Come on, man. Everybody knows how that works in the NFL. It's, agreed upon in the CBA, and you got a problem with it. Like, man, I don't know. That just it bothers me. You got to know who has leverage, where, when, why, how, all of that. And the franchise tag's been around forever, so or for a long time. The next one, James, Saquon Barkley, he's been in the news a little bit in recent weeks, but this past week in particular, he's now making comments that he doesn't rule sitting out all of 2023 if he's forced to play on the franchise tag. And so to me, once again, you should know the rules of the game before you get in it. You elected to be drafted into the NFL. You played through this contract, and now you got franchise tag. That is something that you knew could have happened before you took that job. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, it's just like, come on, man, suck it up. Do the job you're being paid to do. I get it. There's risk you could get hurt and things like that, but this is how the game is designed and how the league is designed. And it just, man, so many people just bitching left and right. It's just bothering me this past week.
Yeah, to add, I didn't read, and now I can't find it, but I had seen something about Jonathan Taylor speaking out about the devaluing of the running backs too, and it's like everywhere you turn this week, it's like, oh, running backs are devalued. It's
Yeah.
like, look, if you're not a beast like Derrick Henry, you're not Christian McCaffrey, you
Yeah.
don't get paid the big bucks.
No.
Period.
No, because and Eckler's a prime example. When you can find a guy undrafted and have
Mhm.
him turn out to be amazing, it's hard to pay a guy stud money. It's just tough. And then so many teams like the Patriots and however many over the years, they've been able to perfect the running back by committee where you don't even have to be a stud. You just got to be good for 5 or 10 plays in combination with 3, 4 other guys or whatever, and it doesn't even matter. And so it just ah, but yeah, and then I got two more. J.K. Dobbins. So
Yep.
he's got an apparent contract dispute going on as well, and now he's making comments. In his, I didn't get the exact comment other than he said something like with Lamar, it's never just roses and daisies, but basically he's alluding to him possibly sitting out a mini camp over his contract, and so it's just another one crying about it, man.
Yeah, so he's in the final year. He said the business side is very hard. It's very difficult. You saw with Lamar, it's never just roses and daisies. It can be hard at times, and it's business though.
Yeah,
Um, but it's like you
this is
sign
the
a contract.
business you chose to get into.
So the thing I can say is I would love to be a Baltimore Raven for the rest of my career. I would love to because I love the city. I love the people. It feels like family here. It feels like my second home, and I hope that happens. It's just and then there's a bunch of Harbaugh quotes in here, but it's like, dude,
Yeah, and it's tough with Dobbins because he's a former first rounder that never really lived up to that draft slot. And this past year, a contract year is hanging out there, and he starts playing great, but he still has injury issues. And so it's like, what are you thinking you're going to get, Dobbins? You've not been like a beast year in and year out. And so, it's hard for a team to pay somebody that when they can just go and draft more guys and have them arguably do the same thing on a rookie contract again.
all right. So his career since he was drafted, it, there's been 50 games played by the Baltimore Ravens. He's played in 23 of them.
Yeah, yeah,
So you know what? Go cry. Yeah, you got hurt and you missed the entire 21 season. You missed six straight games last year. It's like, you know, don't get hurt, and maybe you could prove that you're
yeah,
worthwhile.
yeah. Hey, we'll find whatever the mid-level starter pay is, and we'll give you half of that because you're only
Hmm.
playing half the games.
Not even, but we'll
Yeah,
we'll be nice and give you half.
yeah. And then the last one, James. This one's not even the complaining part of it or whatever. This was just a bummer to see, but running back related. James Robinson was released by the New England Patriots, and
Hmm.
so he was an undrafted guy from Jacksonville a few years back, and had a great story, man. He came out as a rookie, had like over 1,000 yards and over 10 touchdowns, and then he had some injury issues, and obviously then they drafted ETN, and it seems like pretty much now his story's all but faded out, and that's one of the bummer ones because it was a good story feel good kind of story, but it goes to show you just how quick things can change in the NFL, especially at the running back position.
Yeah. So I finally, like, I was looking for something else, and I finally found what Taylor was saying about contracts.
Okay.
Our running backs. Like, you see guys that that request trades, they just want to they want to feel valued by not only their coaches, their teammates, but the organization. Um, he's approached the contract with the Colts. Hopefully, they see value in me. Blah blah blah. Wah.
Yeah, where were you last year, by the way?
And you hope that things are being evaluated the right way.
Yeah, I think for
Sorry.
him, he's in a an interesting position this year because with them drafting Anthony Richardson, you gotta
Hmm.
believe they're going to be planning on riding him hard, which means if he performs, he should be able to get paid. Okay, but they've had an amazing offensive line, and minus success early in his career, it has been rocky at best as of late. And it should be a lot better than that. And so, it's just tough. Like you got to keep performing at a very high level if you want that high level contract. That's just the way it
Hmm.
goes.
Exactly. And there's only two running backs that consistently perform at a high level. One of them does have a little bit of injury history, but I mean, when he's on the field, I mean, he's like McCaffrey. He's on the field. He's the best player on the field damn near half the time, and then Derrick Henry in Tennessee, who's starting to get a lot of tread on those tires. So
Yeah, man. I love Derrick Henry, man. He's just such a bruiser of a running back. But yeah, he's finally in running back years getting a little bit long in the tooth. And so
mm,
how long can you keep that up when you're a bruiser like that? I don't know, but it's been impressive so far.
yeah, and
Uh
the one you didn't mention with talking about running backs was Najee Harris.
oh, I didn't even hear what's going on with him.
He was just talking about like um, how longevity of running backs isn't a thing or something like that. Is like see people like that get released, especially in my position. It's like, damn, what did they do? It's because they're it's is it because of their age? Dalvin Cook and who was the other one? That they got these guys get released.
Talking about James Robinson is the other one.
Yeah, James Robinson. And is it because of their age? You know what I mean? What I don't know. Is it money from the team? They got to pay somebody. I don't know, but it's eye opening for sure.
It's dude, I tell you. All right, so I mean those comments I see where he's going with that, but here's something that I've heard with James Robinson in particular is that it was that fast that his speed just disappeared.
Hmm.
And you got to have that kind of pop at running back. And once you lose that, man, it's tough. And I'll tell you, man, I remember, do you remember this was like a number of years back, they tried doing the veteran combine. Do you remember that?
No.
So, like, all these vets and agents got together and they were like, hey, we want to do our own combine as a way of like trying to get some of these veteran players back in the league because they feel like they still got some gas left in the tank and they've just been overlooked for whatever reason. And it was a disaster, man, especially with the running backs. There were like so many of the running backs that didn't even break into the 4 second mark in the 40. They were 5 seconds and higher. It's like, well, what do you expect when like everybody and their mom in the combine's running like a 4.4 and you
Hmm.
can't even break under five? Like it just you're not going to get a job. Sorry, it's just the way it is. Convert to fullback and maybe try that. I don't know, but there's only two teams running fullbacks. So it's like,
Yeah. Well,
oh,
like with running backs, I remember a number of years ago, like I think it was going to the Super Bowl in Detroit. I remember like that week leading up to it, like whoever had the Super Bowl did a thing on like Jerome Bettis
Yeah.
and showed him like Monday morning, uh, before the Super Bowl, the Monday before the Super Bowl, how like he could barely walk down the stairs in his house.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then I mean,
Take a
at
beating.
that point he was way over the hill and was just goal line. I saw something the other day. I think it was on Twitter talking about like the best stat line in all of sports: carries 4, yards 2, 3 touchdowns.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Or it might have even been like yards -1, because I think his I think one of his carries he lost like
Yeah.
4 yards, and the other three he had 1 yard touchdowns on.
Yeah. Just pounded them in, man. Yeah. I mean, hey, that's what you got to do. You got to become a specialist at that
Mhm.
point. And it's like the old Lions running back who's bounced around. I think he was with the Raiders for a while. I know he was with the Vikings for a while. Amir Abdullah. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, man, you know, he, was a bust in Detroit as a second round pick. Okay. But he reinvented himself as a kick returner and just I'll do whatever you want me to do on special teams
Mhm.
just to stay in the league. And it bought him a lot of time in this game. But a lot of these guys refuse to do that kind of work. And so you get what you get when that's how you're going to be. I'm just saying.
See what mentioning Bettis, like that year that they won the Super Bowl, like he fumbled the ball on like the goal line, um, and then like Indianapolis, I remember it was Indianapolis Pittsburgh. He fumbled the ball on the goal line, and like he ran down the guy that recovered the ball at like the 40-yard line and tackled him to save the touchdown, which basically saved the game.
Nice, nice. Man, I'm having a hard time remembering that, but I got to take you for your word because I believe you got it right.
I'm I'm pretty sure. I know for a fact that he fumbled the ball, and I'm pretty sure he made the tackle that year.
Okay. Well, if you're going to look that up, man, I'll spin this off into
It
some
was
other.
2006 Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll give you just some other player non-running back position news. And so in Buffalo, Stephon Diggs missed a day of training camp this past week, and it's kind of weird because at first Sean McDermott was concerned, very concerned. Now all of a sudden his absence has been excused. I'm not hearing the full story here, but it sounds to me like McDermott is maybe trying to play nice with one of his high profile guys and not make a stink about it. But
Okay, I have actually a lot to say about this one. So
okay,
so the question, if you listen to the question that McDermott was asked, he was asked, "How concerned are you with Stephon Diggs missing practice?"
okay,
He didn't answer a question saying I'm very concerned. He was asked how concerned he was.
gotcha.
So
So you think this is a media just fishing
I think
for
it's I
drama?
think it's media fishing for drama. There was shit that happened at practice. McDermott said, "You know what? We just need to cool down. Why don't you go ahead and take the day off? We'll talk later."
Oh, well, all right. Knowing that, then that's fine. It sounded to me like it was Diggs that just skipped a day and it was unknown why.
No, I was just looking at it, and do I still have
No,
it?
see, that's the thing because I wanted to know the story because from what I read, it was like, okay, well, if the player just skipped a day, McDermott should have been more stern with him. But the way that he backed down off of it made it sound like to me he was like giving in to one of his high profile players.
Yeah, no, I was just reading it. I closed the article, but it was like he basically more or less said, you know what, just take the day off.
All right, and
Uh,
that's hey, that's perfectly acceptable. That's the coach is allowed to do that, and frickin' media just looking for drama. So,
Yeah, I'm not I'm not finding it. I had it open, but I must have closed it because I knew we were going to go there
all right, that's okay.
on it. But oh well.
So yeah, and then the last couple things I got, Jonah Williams, the offensive lineman for Cincinnati. The team wanted to move him to right tackle after they signed Orlando Brown in free agency. He originally requested a trade. Sounds like he has accepted his move to right tackle and has backed off on his trade request, even saying he is stoked about moving to right tackle. And that's good. That's good because I think that's a Super Bowl team, especially if they can keep that offensive line solid. And bringing in Orlando Brown and moving him to right tackle, that's like a double bonus for that offensive line. And so
Mhm.
I'm really happy to see what's going on with him. And then the next one, the next player related one, anyhow, I saw Frank Clark signed with Denver.
Mhm.
I like the move. I didn't see the contract details, anything like that, but just in general, it's a guy that is going to bring some veteran leadership to that defense. And you look at what Sean Payton did historically with New Orleans. He likes having a solid front seven on defense. Frank Clark helps give them that, and so I like that signing.
So I was right up until the person that made the tackle on the Jerome Bettis play.
Okay.
It was Roethlisberger that made the tackle.
Oh shit. Whew. Roethlisberger of all
Yeah,
people.
in
Well, he
in
was
2000.
young then. That was
Yeah, he
like
was
his
young.
rookie year, right? So,
Yeah, uh,
or year two or something.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So he fumbled it. So let's see. So they were blah 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 on the 2 yard line.
Okay.
He Bettis fumbled it. It popped into the air. Nick Harper recovered the ball and basically was about to score a touchdown. And at the 42-yard line, I told you it was like the 40-yard line. Roethlisberger barely got the guy's ankle and tripped him up.
Gotcha.
And then Vanderjagt missed an extra point wide right, and the final score of the game was 21-18.
Jeez. Whew. Ah, nice. Nice.
But I remembered most of it except for the wrong player making the
That's okay.
tackle.
You just had the wrong statue of a player.
Yeah, exactly. The wrong
So,
statue of the player. But that was Roethlisberger's what, second year?
still, he was never athletic, but yeah,
Yeah.
just a freaking rocket of an arm. All right, so the last thing I had for the news, James, was that the Cleveland Browns came out with a new dog logo. It's got like some darker colors and, kind of like an angry, aggressive looking dog. Uh, you know, I kind of like it. I think it looks tough. Although it does remind me a little bit of the Red Dog, the old beer logo.
Oh yeah.
But either way, I think, hey, it's cool that it's it's more fitting than Brownie the Elf. So, and I get it. Brownie the Elf is a throwback to like years and years and years ago, and you got to do that kind of thing every now and then. But this is football. You want to be a little bit more aggressive. This logo kind of lines up with that. What did you think of it, man?
I didn't see it, but based on your
Okay.
description, I don't know if I give two shits about it because that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I mean, hey, how often are they gonna? Well, they're not gonna have it on the helmets, right? So, I mean, you're gonna see it on the field every now and then, or what? I don't know.
Yeah. So
All right, yeah. What else news-wise, man? What I miss?
so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna because I don't want to end the news on a sad note.
Okay.
I'll name this one first. The former Giants wide receiver Homer Jones, who is credited with inventing the spike,
Mm,
died this week at 82. He was apparently the first player to spike the football after a touchdown in the NFL.
well, good for him, man.
Um, So I mean, 82. That's pretty old. I mean, he played 87 games in his career. Uh, I mean, not bad stats wise. For he played 60s. Finished last season was 1970. He had 224 receptions for nearly 5,000 yards,
Okay.
which is pretty good stats for that era. He's he's still the all-time leader with a career average of 22.3 yards per catch.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was just trying to do the math in my head, and I was like, that's like 20 something yards a catch, man. That's got to be a rare error. But yeah, I mean it's tops is what it sounds like. So
Yeah. So for he first spiked the football after an 89-yard touchdown catch against the Eagles in 1965. And he said, I had always said that when I made my first touchdown, I was going to throw the ball in the stands. They changed the rules in the offseason to a $500 fine for
oh
throwing the ball in into the stands. And as I crossed the goal line, my intention had always been to throw the ball into the stands, but I thought about the $500 and I threw it on the ground.
well, yeah, because back then they didn't make the big bucks like they do now. So
Yeah.
uh,
So that's how the spike came about because the league would have fined him $500, which I think his salary might have been $1,000 for the year back then.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so another sad note in it, Ray Lewis's son,
Oh,
Ray Lewis the third, I believe, um, died at the age of 28.
oh crap.
I didn't see what the who's uh, I don't see what the cause was or anything.
Okay.
Um, it's just details and circumstances of his death aren't known. Okay, off to off the sad stuff. Have you seen? Wait, which one do I want to do first? I'll do this one. Um, did you hear about what Antonio Brown once again is in the news?
Oh man, didn't you tell me he was in the news like a week or two ago? Oh, geez.
So Antonio Brown owns I'm sorry, owns a former arena football team.
Okay.
In the middle of the season, Antonio Brown's Albany Eagles or Albany Empire, they were thrown out of the league for not paying league dues.
Oh, well, that's his MO, right? I'm just not going to pay.
So apparently they paid the April assessment, and then they didn't make the May or the June assessment. And it's like pretty bad with what happened. Like players on the team weren't getting paid. The coach quit because of missed payment. Um, and so apparently, according to what's being reported, the his accountant told the league that he that they're not going to pay the league dues.
Yeah.
Basically, at that point, the league
So yeah.
gave them till noon this past Thursday to come to make good on their obligation, and they didn't. So they voted to kick them out of the league. The sad thing about it is, the team that he bought had won the last two
Okay.
league championships.
So what was it a week or two ago you were saying he was going to play on
Yeah,
his team?
he said he was going to play on his team. I mean, he could still play on this team, but
Not in a real game now.
yeah. So apparently, this year alone, or let's call it the last since September 21, He's been sued by a jeweler who says he owes him more than $1 million. He's sued by his marketing company for $2.4 million, and he allegedly, or he's accused of trying to rip
Allegedly.
off a music promoter for $500,000.
Man, I don't know. That
So
Vontae's perfect hit,
yeah,
you know, he could have been a Hall of Famer.
and then the last one, and then on a positive note, have you seen or read about the Chiefs championship ring?
I have not. I heard that they just got him, but I haven't seen the picture yet.
All right. So there's 613 diamonds
Okay.
total and 35 rubies totaling 16.1 carats. So the team's logo on the ring has 16 rubies representing the division titles, 50 diamonds representing the 50th anniversary of Arrowhead, 3 Lombardi trophies because that's how many they've won. Total of 16 whatever baguette diamonds at the base, representing the 16 players who scored a touchdown in the 2022 regular season.
Okay.
A red backdrop created of 19 rubies and 38 diamonds. They scored 38 points in the Super Bowl, which was Super Bowl 57, 19 plus 38. 54 diamonds along the top, representing the deficit in terms of total points the Chiefs had to overcome in their 2 most recent Super Bowl championship playoff runs. A removable top of the ring that can turn into a pendant molded to look like Arrowhead Stadium.
Okay.
And each player's name in gold along with a row of 13 diamonds.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a picture of it.
Here, I'll just send you this in the chat. It's
Okay.
a link to ESPN that has a little video you can look at to show all these. But it looks pretty. It looks tight. I mean, it's a little big and gaudy, but
I mean, that's how they are now, right? They're just
yeah.
freaking insane. All right. Oh, I got to watch the video to see it.
You can kind of see, like, if you scroll down, like, you have the play over it, but you can see the.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it took a minute to load. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm jealous. I'm
Yeah.
jealous. Uh,
So I just wanted to end on a little happier note.
okay. Yeah, that's cool. Freaking bling bling. Bling bling, motherfucker. All right. The news is out of the way. Let's do our evaluation of the new head coaches. Sound good, James?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, hey, before we talk specifically about each of these guys, I want to just go through some stats that I pulled up this week. And so, depending on what source you're looking at, because some of them look back a certain amount of years, some of them go back further, whatever. Basically, there's about an average of 7 new head coaches in the NFL each year in this era. Going back to 2005, we've had 3 seasons with 10 or more head coaching changes. 2006 had 10, 2009 had 11, and last year, 2022, had 10. This year, we've got 5. 3 rookie head coaches, 2 veteran head coaches. There are also, looking back now to 2008, 71.4% of the new coaches also happen to be rookie head coaches. And so this year we got 3 out of 5. It's a little bit lagging, but it's a small sample size. So you look at the whole thing and it's really not that far off. But keep going with the stats. I was looking at this one on medium.com, and they're saying that a new coach improves their team's record 63% of the time by 1.3 wins from the previous season, which in this article they talk about, that's not really a whole lot when you think that the team is at like the bottom of the barrel, which is why they made the coaching change. They really should have nowhere to go but up. And so only by going up 1.3 games is that like a huge difference. But then again, it's a new coach inheriting a dog shit team. And so, improvement. But also 33rdteam.com, a different source now, is saying that since 2013, so going back about 10 years, 28.6% of new head coaches make the playoffs in their first year. And so with 5 guys this year, there's a chance one of those guys is going to make the playoffs, at least one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just looking at some more stats collectively since 2013, first year head coaches have a combined win percentage of 44.3%. So overall losing record. But what's more interesting is that the rookie head coaches account for 70.8% of the first year head coaches that make the playoffs. And so basically they're saying the rookie head coaches have about a 41% chance more likely to make the playoffs than a retread head coach. But despite that additional playoff success, those rookie head coaches, if you isolate just their win percentage in the first year, it's 44.7%, which is almost identical to these other coaches. And so it's kind of strange that they have that much more success getting into the playoffs when their records are almost identical. And so, James, I'm laying all this out there because we're going to come back to it for our question of the week. We're going to talk about these coaches, and some of these stats could kind of tie into that question of the week. And so, laying the groundwork, that's what we're dealing with when you look at these new head coaches. And I did have one last thing on this. One last stat is that since 2010, there have been 5 teams with 5 or more head coach changes. All right, so in 13 years, these teams have had 5 or more head coaches. You've got Denver with 6, Cleveland with 6, and then you've got Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, and I'll just say the Raiders because they were partly Oakland, each with 5. So those guys are just flipping coaches like crazy. But yeah, that's the stats. If you want, we can jump into the guys individually, talk a little bit about them, what we like, what we don't like, what's going on, and why don't you tell me, who do you want to start with, man?
So the first, the one thing I noticed is there's the 3 rookie head coaches. They're all young too. They're the oldest one is it Gannon? Gannon is the oldest one at 40, and both the D'Amico Ryans, who's turns 39 this year, and Steichen, who turned 38 this year.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean they're not like Sean McVay young when he got his coaching job, but they're on the younger side. I got you.
Right, but if you look at their coaching career, well, I guess it's more D'Amico Ryans than anyone else, because I just glanced at D'Amico Ryans' coaching career, and his first year coaching was 2017.
Yeah, and he succeeded Robert Saleh on that defense, and so you look at kind of like his history as a coach, it's pretty limited, but he was a former player, regarded as a natural born leader kind of type, and also a player for the Houston Texans. So that's kind of a nice feel good story. But yeah,
he played 10 years. The last couple years he didn't play full seasons. In a number of the years he didn't play full season. And in 2010 2014, 2015. He didn't play the full season. He finished up with 735 solo tackles, 235 assists, 13 and a half sacks, 7 interceptions. So, I mean, that's pretty good career. He played for 6 years for Houston and 4 years in Philadelphia. But under him as coach with the 49ers, last year they were number 1 in defense. Where's my stat?
I mean, yeah, that defense was lights out last year.
The top units in the NFL for the past 2 seasons. 2022, they were top-ranked defense, finishing number 1 in yards allowed, number 1 in points allowed, number 1 in fewest big plays allowed, number 2 in rush yards allowed, number 2 in turnovers forced, and number 4 in yards per play. Which, I mean, that's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
He has only coached, previous to this, he started his coaching career as a quality control coach, then an inside linebacker coach, then took over as defensive coordinator in San Francisco. And that's, but he was on the, he declined. He was on the block to get the Minnesota job last year.
Okay.
But he declined a second interview and opted to stay with the 49ers instead.
Yeah, because he knew what he had, man. I mean, that was a freaking stacked defense.
5th against the pass, 2nd against the rush. He was assistant coach of the year for the 49ers.
Yeah, and I mean, I like it. I like the fit. I like the hype train that he's bringing to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the
I
players.
like their moves. Oh, damn, I love their draft.
The players like him. He's already brought a couple of vets with him in free agency, which is really abnormal for a rookie head coach. Most of the time, man, they struggle that first offseason to get guys in. You know, a lot of players want to see what they can do before they get behind him, but you got guys instantly backing him, and, you know, which is good because he's inheriting arguably, you know, the worst or one of the worst rosters. And they went out, they've had a freaking dynamite offseason, the draft, getting cornerstones on both sides of the ball. You know, I think, yeah, and then I also looked at it like Houston. It's they were the league's worst run defense, which is right up DeMeco Ryan's alley as a defensive mind, getting that under control. And so, you know, I think that it's going to be a good fit. I am trying to, like, you know, manage my expectations because of Houston being at the bottom of the barrel, but I do like him. The one thing I worry about is that it's on the offensive side of the ball. It's that, man, with them going out and getting Stroud in the first round like that, I would have liked to see them get somehow a true wide receiver 1, which they don't really have. And, you know, it's like with a rookie quarterback, man, I really want to have a solid top wide receiver to help his development, but it's okay. I think they'll figure it out. And they did bring in Robert Woods, right? And then Dalton Schultz also. So I think that helps, but I just would like a little bit more out of that. So.
Yeah, so, like, he didn't bring in that many, like, their coordinators, the coordinators he brought in, I'm looking at it, and it's like, these are a lot of first-time coordinators.
Okay.
The thing I do like is the offensive coordinator for Houston that he brought in. He brought him from San Francisco, who was he was an offensive assistant. What was his actual title? Hold on. Bobby Slowick was the offensive passing game coordinator in 2022 for San Francisco, which we saw what they did with Brock Purdy of all people. So I like that, but like I kind of would have hoped that he would have brought in one, like, for offensive coordinator, would have tried to bring in somebody that was more experienced.
Yeah.
On the offensive side of the ball. I don't know how Slowick did or what Slowick did really with the 49ers, but I would like, it's a lot of no names that
I
he's brought.
got you. Yeah, and I
And
mean, for him, it sounds like it's guys that he knows and trusts,
Mhm.
and he feels confident that they'll be able to rise to that occasion. But I'm with you. With Slowick, it's hard to know what you're getting because everyone knows Shanahan's really running that offense, and so this is a guy that, hey, he got to learn from Shanahan, which is great. Um, but is he ready to be calling those plays on his own?
Yeah, and the defensive coordinator was the defensive line coach for the Cardinals last year. I'm
Okay,
trying to see, like, I'm not seeing, besides playing for the Cardinals, I don't know how they really cross paths.
gotcha. Well, I mean, when you're in the league, people, you're
Yeah.
seeing guys at games, you got all sorts of events and stuff going on, and
Right, but I mean this to for him to be like somebody that he quote trusts,
I got you.
like I don't know where that one, and you know, the thing that concerns me about Houston is D'Amico Ryans is their third head coach in 3 years.
Yeah, that's a problem, man. That's an organizational problem.
Uh-huh. And it just it kind of worries me a little bit there. Like what is
That it
going on in that
that it's just not a
organization?
stable environment. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I look at it, I hear what you're saying, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, they just drafted their quarterback of the future and their
Uh-huh.
defensive franchise player of the future, and they brought in their coach. It just seems like this is like the combination. This is the nucleus of what's gonna get them going for a couple of years. I can't
Right.
I
I
can't
see
see
that.
them pulling the plug on him after a year like they did these last two guys.
Well, see, and that's one of the things. It's hard when you hire one of your franchise's all-time greats. And I put
Yeah.
him in the category as one of
Oh yeah,
the
for Houston,
Texans'
for sure.
all-time greats. And if when you hire them as your head coach, you end up giving them too much of too much slack for what's going on because it's
Okay.
hard to fire them. It's like if after Belichick retires, the Patriots hire Brady as their head coach.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll
It's
let him
like
have a
it's
disaster of a season.
they'll let him have disaster of a season after disaster of a season after disaster of a season
Yeah.
because it's hard to pull that plug.
Well, I mean, I would hope that they're giving Demeco Ryans at least a couple seasons
Hmm.
because, you got rookie coach. I mean, you got a rookie quarterback. You got a very young defense. You got, a roster that's kind of bare. Like you got to give them a few years. But I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. You know, it's an interesting situation. All right, where do you want to go next, man?
Let's stay in the same division and go to the Colts.
Okay,
Because I actually really like this hire. The Colts, they fired Frank Reich, and you'll see the path we're going in a second,
sure. Yeah,
or the path that I would like to go.
yeah, yeah. No, hey, you lead the way here, man.
So the Colts, they fired Frank Reich midway through the season. Was it ah ah hell?
Steve Wilkes took over. I mean, no, no. I'm sorry.
No, no,
It's Jeff Saturday.
Jeff Saturday. But I was trying to remember when they fired him because it was early, but it wasn't.
Oh, it was like week 7 or something, I think.
Yeah, it was like week 7 or week 8, and Hackett from Denver has the honor of being the only coach to lose to Jeff Saturday, and he will always be the only coach ever to lose a football game. Was it Hackett or was it McDaniels?
I
I
don't,
think it
I
was
don't, I don't
McDaniels. I
remember,
think it was
man.
McDaniels because the Indianapolis Colts won one game after they fired Reich, and
Yeah,
it was I think it was I thought it was Denver, but actually think it was
the Raiders.
the Raiders.
Okay. Well,
Um,
that'd be a very much Josh McDaniels thing to do. And I
yeah,
remember him getting that. I remember Saturday getting that win, and then it was a disaster. I just don't remember who the win was against.
it was the Raiders. It was
Okay.
so they fired. I think they fired. It was week 9. They fired. What's his face? Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were. It was after week 9. They were 3-5-1,
Gotcha.
and then they fired Wright and hired Saturday out of the blue. Like
Yeah. No coaching experience at all.
no coaching experience at all. And then they hired the show Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
They hired an offensive coordinator, interim offensive coordinator that I kid you not had a name that would have been the creator of Parks and Rec came up with, Parks Frazier,
Yes. Yes.
as offensive coordinator, and they won one game and lost the rest of them. It was an unmitigated disaster last year in Indianapolis. They hired which one was it? Was it Gannon or Steichen? It was Steichen, right?
Yep.
They hired Shane Steichen, who Steichen has been coaching a long time. Even though he's 38, he he's wow. He started coaching when he not grad assistant coaching, but regular coaching. He got at Louisville in 2010.
Okay.
So he was what? That's
13 years.
25.
12, 13 years, yeah.
Yeah. So he's coached both sides of the ball. He was offensive. He was offensive assistant, defensive assistant, offensive quality control, quarterbacks coach, that's the one that quarterbacks coach, interim offensive coordinator, and then offensive coordinator. He coached the Chargers and the Philadelphia as offensive coordinator
Yeah, he was there for Herbert's rookie
for
year,
Herbert's
right?
rookie year and Herbert's record-setting rookie year
Yep.
as offensive coordinator, and then turn around and look what he did with Jalen Hurts the last 2 seasons, and made Jalen Hurts the highest paid quarterback momentarily in the NFL. He was quarterbacks coach for Philip Rivers. So I mean, he has some experience coaching up quarterbacks, which is why I like the Anthony Richardson draft pick
Yep.
for them. I liked the fit. I thought the fit was good. I didn't any other team. I don't think Richardson would have been a good draft pick there. But he's coached. Let me see. He's coached Philip Rivers, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, and there's one more I'm forgetting that he coached. I'm drawing a blank.
That's okay. You're not thinking of Wentz when he was in Indy?
No, because Wentz
Or, I
wasn't.
mean, yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, I'm, I'm mixing up teams. Sorry.
Yeah, because right,
Because he's in
but it
Indy
could have been
now.
right. It
I
could,
was thinking of when Wentz
but
was in Indy. No.
no. You
Was
were
Wentz in
you were
Philly?
thinking Wentz wasn't in Philly.
Okay.
It was
No,
21.
yeah, yeah, no, I'm way off, yeah.
Yeah, so it was because I know what I'm saying. I thought there was one more. Maybe there wasn't.
Okay.
Um, maybe there wasn't because all I'm seeing is Cleveland. For a year.
That's fine.
So,
Yeah,
anyways,
I mean, with him, a lot of what I'm hearing is he's going to be RPO heavy and lean heavily on Jonathan Taylor while they develop Richardson. Um, which, I mean, hey, if they can get him on like that path that Jalen Hurts was on, where you see progress in the rookie year, and then it's just like gravy from there, I think that'd be an amazing thing. I think we got to be a little cautious because how often does that happen? Richardson may be the most athletic quarterback we've seen. He's like sort of in that Lamar Jackson kind of area or skill set. A little bit of like the Cam Newton too. I know Cam Jackson was the nickname, whatever, but um, man, it'd be sweet if they could get him there. But yeah, I think you look at how raw he was coming out of college, and it just you got to preach having some patience.
Yeah, exactly. You got to preach having some patience. Sorry, the wife.
That's all good, man. It's all good. It's all good in the hood.
Yeah, you got to have some patience. You got to develop him. I'm hearing, and a lot of what I'm reading is they're not planning on playing Richardson right away,
Okay.
which is good. Let him develop there and see how he goes. Although again in the Super Bowl, his offense didn't get shut down like the next coach would talk about.
Okay.
His defense did absolutely terrible. That would be Jonathan Gannon, who was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. He's unlike Sykin, he doesn't have any offensive coaching experience like Sykin has defensive coaching experience. Yeah. He was, at one point, he was a college scout and a pro scout for the Rams, which is a weird tangent to his career. But he's been coaching since 2007 when he was a defensive quality control coach for the Falcons, and then he went to scouting, and then he went to the Titans as defensive quality control, assistant defensive backs coach with the Vikings for 3 years. He was actually defensive backs coach for the Colts for 3 years, 3 years, and then he was with the Eagles as defensive coordinator when Sirianni took over there. He doesn't have much to his coaching resume.
Except he got to be on a stacked Philly defense.
Exactly. This will make sense, the path I'm going here. So he was defensive back coach for Indianapolis under Frank Reich.
Okay.
From 18 to 20. And then he went to Philadelphia, which is where Steichen was as well. The biggest thing with him is his. Oh, I forgot about that in the news. I'll go back to that.
Okay.
The Eagles, they blew a double-digit lead in the Super Bowl. Apparently, they were the second team to blow a double-digit lead in the Super Bowl. Their secondary, I'm just reading some notes that I wrote down from articles, appeared confused, leaving the Chiefs wide receivers wide open at times. I don't remember it exactly that way, but it does make sense.
There were a couple blown plays for sure.
There were a lot of blown plays. And he played soft zone when all Mahomes wanted to do was throw quick passes. That was the concern. He's coaching Arizona. He's going into kind of a good situation for him because this first year there's going to be no expectations. They just released their best wide receiver. They their quarterback is
Murray's out for
half the year. So he's the one that is going into the best situation where he can learn on the job. His only experience, unlike Steichen, who had a couple years of offensive coordinator experience on a couple different teams, he's more like D'Amico Ryans, who only has the 2 years of experience, and they didn't do much in the draft like Houston did to bolster that team.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is just that I talked about Houston maybe being the worst roster, with exception to what they did in the offseason.
Hmm.
Arizona, maybe is the worst roster when you think about Kyler Murray being out, them just letting go of Hopkins, Zach Allen gone in free agency, J.J. Watt retired. They really didn't do Jonathan Gannon any favors going into his first year as a head coach here, and he's taken over the 27th ranked defense. Um, Man, I wish they would have given him something where he could at least try to push that defense forward. It seems like right now he's going to be going into a year where he's going to be struggling to find any wins at all, which is just, I get it that it's going to be a wash of a year because of Murray being out, which you got to believe that Gannon's going to get at least 2 years because this year's expected to be a disaster, but it's like, if you're a head coach, man, you don't want to walk into a situation that like 99% is going to be a fucking shit show embarrassment.
Hmm. So, I just think they're kind of, I was surprised that somebody would be willing to take that job looking at the prospects of this team coming into this year. But, um, yeah, they ended up finding somebody.
All right, who's next, man?
So next, now that we've gone over his former teams and his former coaching staff, we'll go to Frank Reich.
Sure.
So he was hired by the Carolina Panthers after being fired by the Colts. So Reich, without having a franchise quarterback in Indianapolis, made the playoffs 2 out of his first 3 years. Finished with a 40-33-1 record in his tenure in Indianapolis.
Yeah, he actually had a pretty good run up until this last season.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's been coaching. So let me see. He was a player till '98, finishing with the Lions in '98. He coached the Colts
Not
for.
only a player, James, the first quarterback in Carolina history. So you got another feel good story, kind of
Oh,
like DeMeco Ryans going back to Houston.
are we sure about that?
That's one of the articles I read. I was shocked by it.
I guess you're right. Wow, I didn't.
It's going full circle.
I didn't click
I'm
me. Like I
surprised
didn't.
that I just found out about that this week because you would think that something like that would have been more in the news when they hired him.
Yeah, you would think. Let me see. Expansion draft. Huh. So did they sign him as a free agent? Because I'm not seeing him.
They must have.
Because they didn't draft a quarterback. I'm just curious about this now. So give me a second on that. M3,
All
because I
right,
know
so Reich has more
he
than
signed.
30 years of NFL experience, including serving as the Panthers' first starting quarterback in franchise history after signing with them during its inaugural season in 1995. Reich threw the first touchdown pass in franchise history.
Oh, that's why we don't remember him. Because they drafted Kerry Collins in the NFL
Oh yeah,
draft.
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, that was Kerry Collins' team for a while.
Yeah. So he didn't. Kerry Collins.
Yeah, he was just holding the seat warm until Collins was ready.
Yeah. Wait, trying this week 5. So no, that's that. I'm not seeing when Kerry Collins started. 95. He played in 15 games, started 13 of them. So like week 3. So that's why
Okay.
we don't remember. But But the other thing about Frank Reich is he was quarterback for the Bills when previous to this past year, when Minnesota came back against the Colts,
Hmm.
he had the record, the Bills had the record for the most, the biggest halftime lead blown.
Okay.
Previous to that, I think it was 31, and the Minnesota came back from 32
Gotcha.
down against the Colts. Um, so Reich did a fine job in Indy. They did have an off year. He was 10-6, 7-9, 11-5, and they lost divisional game, wild card game in 20 and 18. 21 he was 9-8, and then he was 3-5-1, and so the 3-5-1 they hired an over the hill they brought in an over the hill quarterback, and it was just a whole
Oh,
cluster there.
everything that could have went wrong went wrong. The
Yeah.
offensive line, which was a top five unit, totally disappeared. Their defense, their not just their defense, their best player on defense went through some kind of like
Hmm.
personal crisis and changed his name and then was never available to play. And the defense, which was fairly stout, just like sucked ass. I mean, just everything that could have went wrong for him last year, man. I felt like he got a raw deal in Indy, but I'm
Yeah.
glad he's gone because you don't want to be in an organization that treats people that way anyhow.
Yeah, exactly. Like he took them to the playoffs with Philip Rivers and Andrew Luck. He had to deal with the surprise retirement of Andrew Luck right before the 2019 season. Put Brissett in there, and I mean the team finished 7-9,
Yeah.
and yeah, he just got the raw deal there. I really like Frank Reich as a coach. He he won with the Eagles Super Bowl 52. Um, yeah, 52 is the offensive coordinator, and that was like the Nick Foles year.
Yeah, the Philly special. He was the
Yeah, the
yeah.
Philly special, and then they tried to recreate that Carson Wentz magic that was happening before Wentz got hurt in Philly. That didn't work out. Um, it's just it's just sad, like how shit kind of happened with
Yeah.
him, the
Yeah,
Colts.
and then Matt Ryan. I mean, it just they were trying every veteran quarterback that
Hmm.
became available, and none of
Hmm.
them worked out. I mean, Philip Rivers worked out pretty well the one year, but then that was it. So
Yeah, but he was just there the 1 year.
yeah, and
So,
and so yeah, I mean, he's taken over a Carolina team with a pretty good defense, and they went out, they drafted Bryce Young. It's arguably the weakest division in the NFL. My concern is just that, DJ Moore's gone as part of the trade up to be able to get Bryce Young. Um, I know they went out, they got Thielen, and they did some stuff like that, but it's the same kind of thing. I'd prefer to see them have a little bit more horsepower to help their rookie quarterback develop.
mhm.
And so, it's a little bit of a concern, but you know, that's why these guys are all head coaches, new head coaches, right? They're taking
Yeah.
over a team that
So,
had
but
some
the thing
problems.
thing thing with Carolina is Reich was kind of the surprise hire because Wilkes took over the team
Oh, the
after week
players loved
4.
him.
The players loved him. They finished the season 6-6, even though they still kept winning even after they
Yeah,
unceremoniously traded away the
they
best
did.
player on the
Yeah,
team.
they did better without McCaffrey running the
Mm.
ball. And I mean, it just goes to show what Wilkes did. And we talked about it. I was bummed out that they didn't give Wilkes the chance, but it is what it is, man. It's just the name of the game. Like if you want to go offense, sorry, that's just the way they wanted to do it.
Yeah, and I think, but I like the really. Sorry, I just saw something in my research that I missed with Indianapolis.
Okay.
You know who they hired as offensive coordinator?
No, who's? Oh yeah, Jim Bob Cooter.
Jim Bob Cooter.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of I saw that and it distracted me from it. Where was it going? Oh, like I thought Will Scott got a raw deal getting kicked out of
Yeah, I'm just glad that he landed in San Francisco because at least he's going to a place where he's got talent on the defense that he's going to be coaching, and hopefully that keeps him in the conversation for head coach interviews this time, or not this time next year, but next year when that window opens again.
hmm and like there were a lot of big name on the list of like people they were considering. Then none of them only one like I was like, okay, I'm not even seeing Steve Wilkes on the list of people they interviewed, and then I finally found it.
Okay.
But it's just with Wright got a raw deal in Indy, but he's taking over for a guy that kind of got a raw deal and wasn't given a true chance to take over a team that absolutely loved him and played their asses off for him.
Yeah.
I like Reich as a coach. I feel kind of cheated that this is the way he got the job, but I feel bad for how he lost the job in Indy. So
I got you.
and he's bringing in. Oh, really? That's hilarious. So you know who the passing game coordinator is this year in Carolina?
Hmm.
The guy I was just making fun of, Parks Frazier. But yeah, but he's quarterbacks coach, Josh McCown. Um, who else they bring in? Defensive backs coach, assistant DB coach, D'Angelo Hall. Uh, but like the coordinators are people I've never heard of that he's bringing
Okay.
in. Thomas Brown is the offensive coordinator. Who the fuck is Thomas Brown?
We'll find out in time. We'll find out. All right. Well, here let's move over. Let's get to Denver, man. We got our last one. You ready to talk
Okay,
about Sean Payton?
I'm ready to talk about Sean Payton.
The
This one,
most well-known name of the group and the
yeah,
only Super Bowl winning head coach. So Reich got a ring, but not as the head
not as the head
coach.
coach. So this one bugs the living shit out of me.
This one's got some strange stuff going on with it too. But yeah, go ahead.
So Sean Payton retired as Broncos coach, also known as I see what's or as
Saints, yeah.
Saints coach, also known as I see what's coming down the pipe next season, and I don't want to deal with this shit
With the
anymore.
salary cap that I created.
Yeah, he was traded for. The Broncos gave up a 2023 first round pick and
That's
a
yeah.
2024 second round pick in exchange for Peyton and a 2024 third round pick from the Saints, which is
It's rare.
absolutely absurd. This is the third time, I believe, that a coach has been traded from one team to another.
It's very rare.
Because you had it's three that I can remember.
Obviously Gruden, which
Gruden,
worked because they got the Super Bowl, but yeah,
Belichick was the other one.
yep.
Um, I I want to see if there's so there's only three I can remember. Oh, oh wow. This is curious. It's happened a lot more than I thought.
Oh, I just pulled up a link. Yeah,
So
go ahead.
Bill Parcells was traded in '97 from the Patriots to the Jets for a first, second, third, fourth, and $300,000. Holmgren was traded from the Packers to the Seahawks for a second-round pick. Belichick from the Jets to the Patriots for a first, fourth, seventh, and the Patriots also got a fifth and a seventh rounder. Gruden was 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and $8 million.
Yeah.
Herm Edwards for a fourth-round pick, Bruce Arians for a sixth-round pick, and now Sean Payton. 3 of the 6 trades, Parcells, Holmgren, Belichick, Gruden, Edwards, Arians. 3 of them, which was Gruden, Belichick, and I don't know who the other one was. Oh, Arians. Huh. Oh, yeah. I was thinking Arians being traded to the Cardinals, but he was from the Cardinals to the Buccaneers. So at least half the trades for, that's really intriguing. Half the trades for a coach have
went on for a Super Bowl.
Home 4 of the 5 took their team to a Super Bowl.
Okay.
And actually only one of them was sub 500.
Oh, poor Herb.
Yeah, 15-33.
Okay.
Parcells was 29-19 with the Jets. Holmgren took the Seahawks to the Super Bowl. Wow, it's happened a lot more than I thought. It still bugs me when this happens.
Yeah.
Although that I did not realize that that's how much frickin' the Raiders got for Gruden.
Oh, yeah. And what'd they do with it?
Jeez.
So, yeah, I mean, here's the thing with Denver making the trade for Sean Payton is that, we all know Payton is like regarded as one of the, top offensive play callers of the generation, and how much of that is him and how much of that is Drew Brees, and maybe it's just the combination of the two was like amazing or whatever. Nobody really knows, but I was reading an article on NFL.com by Judy Batista talking about how Denver really wanted Jim Harbaugh. They tried getting him to leave Michigan. He turned him down. And apparently, as DeMeco Ryans was signing with Houston, Denver tried sniping him away, and he also denied them. And so it wasn't until after they did those 2 attempts that they went out and they made the trade for Payton, which just to me, it seems like, it's almost a little bit of a desperation play at that point. And then even then, if you're Payton, it's like you were not only not their first preferred guy, you weren't even their second pick. And then you're their third pick, which they've now traded a high draft pick for. So there's high expectations. And it just, I don't know, the whole thing just seemed kind of wonky to me. Like Denver, they're another one of these teams that they just seem like they got some organizational issues, something going on that's just not right, man.
Yeah, no, and I do that. I had forgot like all that was going on, but yeah, I did hear that like it was like Harbaugh, and then Harbaugh's like no, and Harbaugh was just using them to get money out of U of M because after like he was struggling against Ohio State and everything, they kind of cut his his salary and shit, and he got a new deal with U of M. But with Payton, like he's coached 15 years, all with Drew Brees, and he's 9 of those 15 years they made the playoffs. They won the Super Bowl. He's overall 152-89 as head coach, 9-8 in the playoffs. which is it's a solid record, but I agree with you. It's how much of it was Breeze. Um, what would have been the situation if the doctors in Miami would have cleared Breeze?
Oh
You
yeah,
know that story, right?
yeah,
And that was Saban. That's why Saban stepped down. Eventually, ended up stepping down, is because he wanted Breeze, and doctors wouldn't clear the trade, and he's like, "No, he's good. Trust me." And they're like, "No," and so that's how New Orleans got him, and I mean, changed two franchises
yeah.
there. Um, so I don't know how much of it is Breeze versus how much of it is Peyton. He still was able, because Breeze retired in 19.
Oh yeah, geez, I'm trying to think. Yeah,
Or was it? I think it was 19.
2021.
Was it that late?
Yeah. Oh, at the end of the 2020 season.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So you're close. You're close.
so I mean, and he still was able to have a winning record with was that Jameis Winston was their quarterback?
I think so. Yeah, I think they went to Jameis.
Um, or was it Teddy Bridgewater?
Oh shit, I forgot Teddy Bridgewater was in there. Yeah, 'cause that was the start of the Taysom Hill trickery.
Yeah.
Or I guess that started with Breeze, but it like really picked up.
Where is the fucking roster? No. No, that can't be right. 2021 New Orleans Saints. They were 9-8 with the quarterbacks on their roster were Ian Book, Taysom Hill, and Trevor Siemian. That can't
Hmm.
be right. Something's wrong there.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. I'm not totally sure. 'Cause I'm showing they signed Jameis Winston in July 2021. So I'm sure he would have been the guy at least for part of that season.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, but uh,
So he played 7 games in 2021. He got hurt, and then Teddy Bridgewater. No, no, he wasn't the other guy.
yeah, so he in
Teddy
week 8,
Bridgewater was in Denver in 2021.
yeah, it was. That's why he. Okay, so he went on IR. So that's why it's. I guess it's the
Okay,
final roster, not like.
sure.
And it was week 8, and they went on a little bit of a losing skid after that, and but finished the season 4-1 and damn near made the playoffs. So week 5, he broke his collarbone.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at the roster,
Trevor Siemian took over.
yeah, I mean, I think Peyton he's taking over a team that on paper has talent on both sides of the ball. The secondary's not as strong as it used to be, but they have all the weapons they need on offense, and they have plenty of weapons on defense. It's just a matter of, is the coaching change all they need to turn it around, or is there more going on here where, yeah, it looks good on paper, but a lot of maybe it's like Russ is cooked, like they say, and
So
whatever
here's
else.
here's a couple things about Denver. Peyton has to change the attitude in that locker room, because everything I was reading about what was going on in Denver was that entire team didn't respect Russ.
Okay.
The entire team didn't, and he has to change that attitude
Yeah.
to be successful there, and that's going to be hard to do because I don't think Russ. I've been saying it for a couple years. I thought that Seattle held on to Russ 1 year too long. I was telling you they should trade. They should trade him, get rid of him. I think he's pretty much done. I want to call him old, but he's not really that old.
Well, part of his
But
game forever has been improvising, getting out of the
yeah,
pocket, and then last year they tried to keep him in the pocket, and then when he basically forced it to get out of the pocket, he didn't have that same kind of athleticism that let him have that success earlier with Seattle.
yeah. So he's 34, so he's getting up there in quarterback
Yeah.
years.
And now,
But
and now, James, I did hear that Russ has lost a lot of weight
mhm, that's
trying to
where I
get
was.
some of that speed back and that mobility back. And I think that that's huge. I think that that's important. Um, one thing I will say that I do like about this connection is that when you look at like the arc on his deep passes, it's very similar to what we saw from Drew Brees. He's one of those quarterbacks that really knows how to put air under the ball. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that fits what Peyton has going on with his playbook
Mhm.
and whatever else. But it just, his quarterback style was different than Drew Brees or is different than Drew Brees's was. And so, a lot remains to be seen here.
Yeah. And he's shorter than Breeze too, which I didn't know was possible, but he is. He's 1 inch shorter.
Okay. What are you
But
trying to say
anyways,
about short people, man?
I said nothing. You're the one.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Last time I checked, both those short guys won Super Bowls. Yeah,
I was just saying that he was shorter than Breeze.
yeah,
I
yeah. I
I
got
was
you. I
not
got
saying
you. Hey, I'm just taking it there. I'm
anything
taking it there.
else outside of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Of course, a lot of people watching the show, they don't know how tall I am, right? As far as they know, I'm fucking 6 feet tall. So, but yeah. All right. Well, what else you got for Sean Payton, man? Or you wanted me to segue us over to our question of the week?
I think we can segue over to question of the week because, like, I just have really big issues with trading for a head coach.
Okay. All right. Question of the week. Now that you've heard all of our stats and our rundown on each of these new head coaches, will any of these coaches get their team into the playoffs this year? And if so, which one or which ones? Then I want to do a bonus question and find out, since there's only five of these guys, which ones do you think will finish above 500 and which ones below, since we know historically they finish lower than 500. And so let's start with the playoff question, James. Do you think any of these guys make it in?
I do,
Okay.
and it's not because I think they make that much of a difference on the team, as much as the team that they like. We don't have room in our driveway. What the fuck are you doing, jackass? Sorry, I can see my driveway from here, and both our cars are parked in the driveway, and some jackass was just pulling in my driveway to turn around.
It's all
It's
good.
like there's not that much room. Um, anyways, this team, Carolina, they have a super fucking easy schedule this year.
Yeah.
They have, like I had told you, they play the AFC South, so that's Houston, Indianapolis, two new, um, and then Jacksonville and whoever the other team is there. Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Tennessee. So you have two new head coaches they play there. They also play the NFC North. Green Bay, who's going to be down. Chicago, who's kind of still trying to rebuild. Minnesota, who's trying to claim they're not rebuilding. And the Lions, who are kind of hit and miss. I'm also trying to. I was going to look. So they play two. They only play two. They do play two of the new head coaches, and they're besides like Houston and Indianapolis who play each other, they have the most games against a new or a rookie head coach.
Okay.
Because like Denver doesn't play any. Carolina, Houston, Indy play each other and don't play any other or play. Oh, they play. Do they play? No, they Houston, Indy. Yeah, because they play Carolina and each other. So, but that doesn't. I'm not counting that. Anyways, Carolina has a fucking easy ass schedule. It kind of starts off like their division's down. They do they play the North and the NFC North, AFC South amongst the teams they play. So I think they end up with, and I had this, and we talked about this last week. They end up with a 9-8 record. They win two more games.
Yeah, it looks like you had them at two more games than Seattle, so they just sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, they just sneak into the playoffs barely as the 7 seed, not
Okay.
even winning the division. And I think the other,
Oh, they're in one game ahead of New Orleans is what you had also. So
yeah,
yeah, they
that
crept in, tied with Minnesota, or no, I'm sorry, one game ahead of Minnesota also. So yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
so they just barely make the playoffs. Um, and because I think
All
I'm
right.
trying to look where I had Minnesota. Yeah, no, I had them beating Minnesota, and that was the difference there.
Yeah, and so then in terms of above or below 500, and I'm looking at the sheet here.
I think
Um, yeah, go ahead,
only
man.
Carolina is above 500. I do have Houston being close to above 500, and I do see the possibility of them ending up above 500 if a game breaks the right way, like they play. Oh shit. Houston plays every one of the other new head coaches. I missed that game.
Oh, nice. That's
Houston
interesting.
Houston plays in the division. They play at Carolina in week 8. They play home against Arizona in week 11. They play home against Denver in week 13.
Good for them, man.
Wow. So I have Houston just below 500. I have them at 7-10, and I think they're the only one that comes close. I have Indianapolis at 4-13, and Denver at 5-12. There, um, I think Houston has done the most to better their team this offseason.
Yeah, but they're
Uh,
coming from 3-13-1. So yeah,
yeah,
how much can
they're
you really
coming
go in one year?
they're coming a long way. While Carolina had a really good end of the season, which I think is shows that there's talent there. It was just a coaching issue at the beginning of the season, and I think Reich can get that dude that ship. Reich can get that ship righted.
Yeah, and they were 7-10 last year. You know, if you go with the stat 1.3 wins, that takes them to 8.3. That's close to where you had them at 9 wins. Um, and then interestingly, I just went through my model for Carolina, and so I have their record at 4-13 for next year. But the interesting part of that is that seven of their losses in my model are by 3 points or less. And
Hmm.
so I could see them, they're one of those teams where it's so tight that just the slightest boost could really push them the other way. Um, but yeah, for me, I'm going the other way. I'm with Denver getting above 500, and I'm going to go Denver. And I'm doing this because I like the stats you gave me about the coach trades. Those are more successful than I would have thought.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the pieces are there. And so, despite some of this weird whatever going on in the background with Denver, um, I, I guess they're let me say this. They're going to be my pick to go over 500. They're not going to be my pick to make the playoffs. I don't think any of these guys make the playoffs based off of the model that I went through last week. But I got Denver as the 1 out of the 5 going over 500. There we go.
Okay.
I was starting to not say it right, but I got it right there at the end. So, bada bing, bada boom. Any closing thoughts there, James?
I don't think so. I think that's about it.
Okay. Well, hey, for anybody who's watching, we hope you like the show. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like the video, and come on, play Name That Stadium. Answer the question of the week. We want some engagement. That's why we do this. And next time, which we're going to be skipping next week, but the week after, we're going to dive into some of the trades that we think should still happen, whether or not they will or whatever. Just a little bit of, dreaming and thinking and whatever, and trying to match some guys up with where they could maybe do better for themselves or help a team better or whatever the case may be. And so, yeah, like always, James, it was a good time, man. I'll catch you later, homie.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut, hut, hike.